Hello and welcome to this latest episode of the Wind Down Rewind, where we rewind the latest in entertainment pop culture news. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. And this week in the Quick Pops, welcome to Black History Month. How are you doing this month, Tammy, where it's okay to say that Black Lives Matter?
Oh, I said Black Lives Matter 365, but okay.
But it's officially okay for everyone else to say it during this month.
I don't know. When March 1st come around, hey, y'all, just throw out a Black Lives Matter real quick. Go ahead, do it. Do it. I bet you it makes you feel good. Do it. Every first of every month, just be like, Black Lives Matter. Just yell it out in the street. Go ahead.
And see what happens. Well, this month got started with several HBCUs receiving bomb threats. And like you said, it wasn't just this month thing, because that's how the year started off, January 1st. First week of January, you got several of them receiving bomb threats too. So we will see what happens with that. The FBI supposedly has a list of suspects and are investigating those bomb threats. So I hope they get to the bottom of it. And of course, the right wing got their panties in a twist because Biden said he is following through on his plans to nominate a Black woman to the Supreme Court after Justice Breyer retires. So, are you excited about that?
I mean, I'll be excited when he actually does it.
So do you think the backlash will keep him from doing it?
I just don't have any faith in Biden doing what he says he's going to do.
See, we're a little different. Has he been the best? No, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement, but he has tried to follow through on a lot of the things that he said. So I will see. I think he'll do it. I'm interested to see who is going to get the nomination. He's already nominated more women of color to the federal appeals courts, to the federal courts. So I think it's about time we had a woman, a Black woman on the Supreme Court. Considering there has never been a Black woman nominated, I think it would be interesting. But yeah. Now, if he doesn't follow through on his promise, then I know he will get more backlash from that than actually following through. So we'll see what happens. And CNN is reeling because their chief, Jeff Zucker, resigned over an undisclosed relationship with a colleague. That when I heard that story, when I saw that he resigned, I'm like, ooh, what happened? Then I saw that, I'm like, that's a nothing burger. Like, it was consensual. It wasn't a sexual harassment thing. They've been together. Everyone has known. So I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. Congratulations to Rhianna. Did you hear that she's pregnant?
Yeah, I heard it was a big to-do.
Yeah, her reveal, her walking down the street not so casually with her baby bump out. Congrats to her and A$AP Rocky. For those of us who have been waiting for that new Rihanna album, we are never getting that album now. I just want to put that out there.
Please, Rihanna is living her best life, making millions of dollars without putting out music. I think she's good.
Yeah, she on that billionaire status tip. So she did it not from music, it's from everything else. So she might just drop one when the kid is old, be like, yeah, 10 years old or something, like, I kind of miss making music, let me do this. But yeah, she's living her best life. And I know you were excited about this one. You have some engagement news for us.
Oh, Una and Dawn, after 6 years being together, it was a whole big controversy when they first revealed their relationship. They are finally engaged, and they revealed it by both posting matching engagement rings. Like, both of them have engagement rings, and they posted it on their Instagram. So I'm very, very happy. It's crazy because I didn't even realize it because I was at work, and somebody at work told me about it. So I'm very, very excited. Can't wait to see how the wedding looks, because their personalities is gonna be off the chain.
Yeah, that should be. I saw the picture. It was a cute picture. And wishing them the best. And I was with you. I'm like, yeah, that wedding is gonna be cray. Just it's not gonna be there. Let me put it this way: there's gonna be nothing traditional about it, and I think that fits. Like it's going to be them, or at least you hope it's them. So we'll see. Any did they have any news on a date? They didn't. They're just engaged, right?
No, they're just engaged. It's just a big thing because they are the first, I want to say, like, probably like first like idol couple that didn't let the pressure of conservatism get to them on their conservatism within the idol life, get to them on their relationship. So that's why it's such a big deal, because they went against the norm and they've survived. Like, I know there's people who are waiting for them to just break up and be done. So I'm very happy to see that they both put a ring on it. So congrats to them.
Yeah, and hopefully it turns out better than Kanye and Kim. And I just want to say that I really, I, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with Kanye. I mean, we know, but
He's
it's
bipolar.
just he is, and he's obviously off his meds. Like he, he makes you care about something that you don't really care about. Okay, y'all are getting divorced. Like, raise your hand if you're surprised the marriage didn't last. Okay. But when you go around spreading horrible, nasty rumors about the person that she's currently with, Pete Davidson, like he's spreading gay AIDS junkie rumors about him, which is really childish and stupid. He's alleging that she kidnapped their youngest daughter, and then he's ranting because she and her oldest daughter are posting TikToks. I'm just like, Kanye, can you please get on your meds? Like, please, get on your meds. So we'll just see how nasty this thing becomes. And she's finally starting to fight back, which she has every reason and right to do. So yeah, just to be continued, whatever. In movie news, quick movie news. Have you heard about the Color Purple remake starring Fantasia, Domingo Coleman, Taraji P. Henson? Her.
Some movies shouldn't be remade.
So you're not excited about that?
No, I'm not.
No? Okay. Well, I didn't. You heard about it for years. Apparently, Oprah is involved with this one, which I'm not surprised because she was responsible for bringing the stage play, which unfortunately is one that I never got to see while I was doing the traveling. Not even the traveling version. So, but she was responsible for bringing it to the stage, to Broadway, and so forth and so on. So, she's also going to be executive producing this movie too. And I'm with you. I don't. I I'm gonna file this in. We will see what happens. I think that was probably a perfect movie. Besides the fact that it got snubbed at the Oscars, but I don't know that it necessarily needed a remake or an update either. So we'll see what happens. Jason Momoa is in talks to star in the Fast and Furious franchise as a villain. The next one. Are you excited about that? Makes you more hyped to see it? Yes?
No.
No? Oh, God.
I'm gonna see it anyway because it's Fast and the Furious, and I just want it to end, and I'm gonna watch it until it ends. But no, like, I mean, it's Fast and the Furious. Like, it's a crapshoot, but you just can't turn away from it. So it's just another good looking dude being added to the franchise to pull people in, seeing as how um everybody's just kind of like, okay, when is this really going to end, y'all? Like, can we end this now?
Yeah, well, we know it's ending at 11, and especially since The Rock said he just went ahead and said we're never ever getting back together. He pulled that Taylor Swift, and it's like, dude, fuck it, no. Um, so, but I'm interested. I guess what excited me the most, I'm like you, as much as I love the franchise, it's time, and we've talked about it, and we're not going to rehash that. But I will say that I'm excited to see him play a villain, to play a bad guy, which is pretty cool. I think he would make a kick-ass bad guy. So I'm interested to see that side of him, because mostly he's been a hero. And Dakota Johnson is in talks to play Madam Web, or she's going to play Madam Web for Sony's version of the Spider-Verse. So she's going to be the first female web slinger on, besides Gwen Stacy, who was in Into the Spider-Verse, the animated. She's going to be the first live action female web slinger. So I don't know. I'm also reserving my judgment on that, because I'm not the biggest Dakota Johnson fan. What about yourself?
I agree. I'm not.
Yeah. So we'll see. And just in a bit of sports news, I know that you're so interested because you are the biggest sports fan I know. Cue the sarcasm. We need a sarcasm sound effect. But Major League Baseball players have rejected the latest offer to end the lockout. And I know most people probably did not realize that they were in a lockout, but they are, because by now we would be gearing up for the beginning of spring training. And usually that's the next big sport to start kicking up after we get into the Super Bowl, which is coming next week. And before we get to the Super Bowl, one of the big staples who's played in and won more Super Bowls than any other NFL player, the legendary, the great, the one, the only, Tom Brady. Love him or hate him, I know he strikes quite a controversy on people loving him or hating him. I happen to love him. He officially retired after 22 years in the NFL. I'm sad.
I know you are. He was like your favorite.
Yeah. So, he went out on top. He went out on his own terms. I have mixed feelings. I kind of wish he would have done a goodbye year, but then you're kind of good. I'm kind of glad he didn't. Don't want him to go out hurt. Don't want all that pressure on him to have to win another one in his last year. So it was kind of like a quiet retirement. The Patriots were big mad because he didn't really mention them in his retirement speech. But we all know, again, quoting Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar, there was some bad blood. Now we got bad. Let me stop. Ooh, see, the voice isn't even warmed up for that yet. There was some bad blood between the teams when he left to go play for the Rams. So he got a Super Bowl with the Rams. Wish him the best in his retirement. But yeah, I'm gonna have to find me another team now, another player to root for. All right, I know you're excited for the Super Bowl next week.
Okay.
Do you even know who's playing in the Super Bowl?
No.
Okay. It is the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, who some people say may be the next Brady incarnate. Burrow is a bad boy. He's really good. LSU won a championship at LSU, won a Heisman at LSU. And now he is in his second year. He is leading the Bengals to the Super Bowl. So that is great. And the Bengals have been trash forever. And then the Los Angeles Rams. I think they're only the second team to ever play a Super Bowl in their home stadium. I think the Bucks may have been the first. I know the Bucks were definitely the first to win in their home stadium last year. So we'll see if the Rams can repeat that. I'm not even sure who I want to win that game. I like them both. I do know that these tickets are the second most expensive in history. Guess how much the most expensive ticket is?
$1 million?
Not quite, girl. About 150,000 though.
That sounds about right.
And then the cheapest seat is 6,500, and then the average is somewhere about $9,500. So that's a lot. So that's the good news for the NFL, and that's the news that the NFL, I know they wish that they could just focus on forever, that everyone would just keep their eyes on. But it came out that, well, the Washington football team, they're now called the Washington Commanders, which is a horrible name. Like, really?
What name would you have liked them to pick?
I don't know, but the Washington Commanders, I don't know. It just,
it'll feel like the other crapshoot names within sports. It's a lot of teams with horrible names.
Yeah, you think, I don't know. And then I guess maybe if they change the colors from that horrible orange and doo-doo brown gold, or doo-doo gold, or that maroon and gold, whatever their colors are, we'll see. Maybe it'll grow on you, but I'm not a Washington football team fan anyway. So, but their investigation into the shit show that is that team and their horrible, horrible owner, they've decided to keep it close, to keep it secret. And the thing about that is it was details from the investigation that were leaked that cost John Gruden his job with the Raiders, and he never worked for the Redskins. His brother was the coach at the time. So it's like, how can you now decide to keep the details of the investigation leaked if they were so horrible and egregious at one point to cost someone who wasn't even affiliated with the team their job? So, not saying that Gruden didn't deserve it, but I'm just saying, I don't know. That kind of leads me to believe that they found out a lot of shit that they don't want to come out. And they have the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Brian Flores, is suing the NFL over their discriminatory practices, especially when it comes to hiring black head coaches. Are you surprised?
Is he black?
Yes, he is.
Oh, okay. He's suing them for discriminating against black people?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. What team he go for?
He coached the Miami Dolphins, but he was fired.
Oh, why was he fired?
No one knows, because he had turned that franchise around. He took them from the trash he put to the NFL to 2 winning seasons. They just barely missed out on the playoffs.
Maybe they didn't like that a black man did it.
I don't know. Well, see, here's what he says. Part of the allegations is that the owner, who is also a trash ass owner, had offered him $100,000 to tank for every game. He wanted them to tank the season. So for every game that they lost so that they could get the number 1 draft pick, he was going to pay him $100,000. And apparently, this is not the only time this offer has been made to black coaches. And with the exception of Rudy Tomlin, who's been the head coach of the Philadelphia Steelers for years, going on almost 20 years, I would say, then there really have not been a lot of mainstay or long-term black head coaches. And they always give the black head coaches the horrible jobs, the bottom dweller teams, and expect them to try to rebuild those teams. And then after a year or two, they are out. But Brian Flores' firing, it came as a shock. Like, that was a shock to everybody because, like I said, he taken the Miami Dolphins and he had turned them around, and they were just barely missed the playoffs in a very competitive AFC. I think they're in the AFC East. And so that has surprised. And then he went on several other interviews, and the NFL has this thing called the Rooney Rule, which is named after Art Rooney, who was the owner of the late owner of the aforementioned Pittsburgh Steelers. And that rule says that you have to, for every open head coaching position, you have to interview at least one black coach or coach of color. And so the jobs that he went on, the interviews he went on, he said that they were just basically checking, the interviews were to check those boxes that, hey, they have fulfilled the requirements of the Rooney Rule.
I mean, it sounds about right. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not either. People are saying it kind of goes back to Colin Kaepernick and what he was saying about the NFL, and some other, like I said, some other prominent former black coaches in the NFL have come out and co-signed on his allegations. So, of course, Roger Goodell sends out the memo stating that they have to do better for all the strides that they've made in tackling the diversity issues within the NFL. The head coaching position still seems to be the one where they're lacking the most. And so I was just like, okay, like when I read it, it seemed like it was just lip service because and in this case, it wouldn't even be surprising me if the NFL is the one who actually leaked the memo to show that they want to be proactive. But if you were proactive, you would have done something about this years ago, because people have long since been saying that the Rooney Rule does not work, and you cannot use Mike Tomlin, who's not only one of the longest tenured head coaches in the NFL, but also the longest tenured Black coach in NFL, and successful with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can't use him as the example, you know. So, but they like to tout him as the token, the one who, you know, he made it. So you yeah, it's bullshit, but we'll see. So, definitely filing that story under to be continued. And speaking of the Super Bowl, are you going to watch the halftime show at least?
Nope.
You're not?
I don't support the Super Bowl in any avenue. I don't care who's performing for the halftime show.
So you're not even going to watch it on YouTube?
Maybe when I feel like it, but it's not going to be like a priority for me as soon as it happened and they put it. It's not going to be like when people perform on award shows and I just automatically go on YouTube because I know it's going to be there. No, I'm just going to be like, oh, okay, well, let me check out this show that everybody's been talking about. And then maybe I'll catch some clips on YouTube. But I love who's going to be performing it, but I just don't support the Super Bowl in any type of way. So no.
I was going to say, because, you know, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominee Eminem is going to be performing. I mean, the lineup is going to be so, like, it's out of this world. I can't wait. Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Dre, like it's going to be amazing. I want to see how they're all going to come together. Snoop, like it's just going to be, yeah. So I'm excited about that. And speaking of the aforementioned Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, are you excited about this year's nominee list?
I'm just so shocked that Dolly Parton is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Jay-Z made it.
Huh?
Like, isn't Jay-Z in it?
Yeah, he was just in, but okay. I agree. I was surprised when I saw her on the list. I was surprised that she hadn't been inducted before now. That surprised me.
And it was her first time being nominated. She'd never been nominated before.
Yeah, but Jay-Z, he just went in last year, so it's not like
but he's been nominated multiple times.
Well, maybe she'll get in on her first. She will get in on her first nomination. I mean, it's Dolly Parton. But you know who on the list surprised me?
Who?
Carly Simon. I was surprised Carly Simon and Dionne Warwick weren't already in. So that surprised me. But this year's nominees include Beck. Were you a Beck fan?
On and off, yes.
Okay.
I did listen to some music.
80s female hero, rock icon, Pat Benatar. Love is a battlefield. 80s, you know, throwing back to the 80s. Kate Bush. Were you a Kate Bush fan?
No.
No, I've heard of her music. I wasn't a big fan. There are some of her songs that I liked. Punk rockers, Devo. Also big in the 80s. 80s icon, Duran Duran. Were you a Duran Duran fan?
No, but I listened to their music.
Yeah. Of course, Eminem. Oh, the Eurythmics and Annie Lennox. Love them. Hard rockers, heavy metalists, Judas Priest. No. Fela Kuti. Hit or miss. I know who that is. I've listened to music. And I don't know MC5. Never heard of them. New York Dolls. Don't know who that is. Rage Against the Machine. Were you a big Rage fan?
No, but I listen to their music. Like some of these people, I'm really shocked that they're not in the Hall of Fame yet. Yeah. Like it's crazy.
Lionel Richie.
See, it's crazy.
I'm like, I know, but I wonder if because kind of like how Tina Turner was already in the Hall of Fame, because she had gone in as part of the Ike and Tina. I wonder if the Commodores are already in, and so he's now going as a solo artist. Let's see. Because were you a big Lionel fan?
No.
I
mean, not specifically him, but the music from that era. I was a huge fan of the music from that era. Now, specifically a Lionel Richie fan. No, I won't say I was, but I love the music from that era.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. The Commodores are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
See? It's very shocking when you find out like how many of the artists that you just assume have already made it in aren't in the Hall of Fame and have probably never been nominated to enter the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. That to me, like, I'm surprised they weren't, because you know they were big 70s, 80s, and then when they broke up, Lionel Richie kind of took over 80s, 90s. You know, he was big. Michael Jackson was big. So I was like, okay. And I'm with you. There are certain songs, you know, like Hello, like you know his music, but I was not just the biggest fan of his. Dion, say a little prayer for Dionne Warwick. Like, yeah. So I'm surprised that Auntie D wasn't already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I would be also surprised if, like Dolly Parton, she didn't make it on her first try either. So I think this is her first try. And Carly Simon, and then of course A Tribe Called Quest. Huge, huge Tribe fan. What about you?
Nope.
And you know what? Honestly, I'm not surprised, but I would think coming from the East Coast, you would have been a Tribe fan.
Oh, I wasn't that type of music person where like I was a fan of like artists that were from my area. Like, no.
You weren't repping for the East?
No, like I didn't have loyalty just because you were from, you know, where I grew up, like at all. Like it had to be that I liked your music. And if I didn't really listen to you, I wasn't just gonna listen to you just to be like, I mean, come on now, like like it's kind of like the Roots. I know the Roots. I can say how amazing the Roots are as artists, but was I a fan of the Roots when I was growing up? No. And they're from Philly. So it's kind of like they'd be like, but yo, like you from Jersey and they from Philly. Like, what you mean? I'm like, I mean, I get the significance of the Roots. I just wasn't a fan really. Like
Oh,
I can, you know, so yeah. So no.
okay.
That's like
Because
saying I have to be a fan of Biggie just because he was from New York. Like, no.
oh, okay. I was about to say you might get your throat might get slit in the middle of the night, but never mind.
It's okay.
Talking about the Roots like that, you
It's
know,
okay.
just classic.
I acknowledge the fact they're awesome.
I get it. There's some people that like goes back to what I said about Tom Brady. You don't necessarily have to like them, but you can't hate on their game or hate on their artistry or talent. I get it. Speaking of music, gosh, and this isn't even really about music. I know you've heard about what's been going on between Joe Rogan and with Joe Rogan, Spotify, and the world. Is that right? Joe Rogan and Spotify versus the world.
Sure.
Is that our title? Is this the one where Joe Rogan and Spotify versus the world?
I like that.
Okay, cool.
Go
That's
for
in the running.
it.
Um, so you know, it started with Neil Young, basically giving Spotify an ultimatum: take off Joe Rogan, or he was going to pull his music. And when I first heard that, I was like, "Damn you, Neil Young! I like you. Not a big fan of Neil Young's music. I know who you are." Going back to what I just said, I get what you're doing, but you can't call on them to censor. Like it kind of had me in a weird place where it's like, why am I saying he has the right to say his bullshit, but you don't have to listen? That's where I was at the beginning. So I understand, you know, I that was my position. What about you? Or did you just have I don't care?
I didn't even know the Neil Young part of this whole thing. So continue because I'm
Okay.
learning something different. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's how it started. Was with Neil Young basically giving
So he pulled
Spotify,
his music, right?
yeah, giving
Okay.
Spotify the ultimatum. And so like I said, initially I was just like, fuck, you know, he's an asshole. We've talked about it before. But in one sense, he has the right to say it because it's his podcast. Just don't listen to the bullshit. I get it. And then, but I understand where he was coming in trying to hold Spotify accountable because technically Spotify owns the rights to his shit because they are the only ones who distribute his podcast, and they pay him. They paid him in the hundreds of millions. I think his contract was like $100 million for his
Yep.
shit. So Spotify has to take some ownership for what one of their, because he is in that case their employee. And at that point, since everyone knows that, or pretty much everyone knows that, he's representing them. So, at first I was like, well, put up a disclaimer, that bullshit, whatever, because he's not news. The people who say that he's news, he's not. So that's initially where I was. Fuck Joe Rogan. I get it. Neil Young, don't make me side with them on this. But he did pull his music. Joni Mitchell pulled her music. You had some others also pulling their music. Okay. Because of his COVID misinformation. Then he comes out, and then this is where he lost me. This is where I'm like, God, it kind of goes back to that whole Novak Djokovic thing where just hire you stop doing, you make more than enough money to stop doing your own PR. Get you a PR representative, listen to them, and shut the fuck up. So then he comes out and says, "Oh, I'm not an expert. I don't tout myself to be an expert." Bullshit. You have on quote unquote experts, doctors, people with doctors, actually degrees coming on co-signing on your COVID misinformation. You have all these people in the millions of listeners, not a struggling mom and pop like us, but you have millions and millions of listeners, and you go on your show saying that 21-year-olds and stuff don't need to get vaccinated, that COVID is nothing more than a flu, and all of your other harmful bullshit, and then you get professional experts to come on and co-sign that. So you are touting some expertise on your show. So that's where I was like, okay, you're full of shit. Now, not only after that, so we already said they paid him what, $100 million. Within that same week, Spotify lost $4 billion, and they're continuing to bleed money
because people are actually canceling their subscription of Spotify over this whole thing. Like I just saw on Twitter, no, Instagram, sorry, that Sophia Bush, who I love her, she just moved her podcast from Spotify over this whole Joe Rogan thing, posted a whole message on the reason why she is doing it and why she feels so strongly about it. Over this. So you're losing listeners, but you're also losing podcasts or people that could bring listeners to your platform.
Correct. And it's been, that Spotify has started making most of its money from podcasts because they have blown up with the deals that they have. It is rumored today, and you're not only correct, and it gets worse. Oh, we've only scratched the surface on this bullshit. So there's talk that the Obamas, even though they haven't officially come out, who also have an exclusive deal with podcasts, which the deal is winding down. So it's rumored that after their deal is done, they're going to leave Spotify. So if Apple is smart, they will jump in on, even though they have their podcast, they will jump in and try to get the exclusive rights, because podcasting is what's made Spotify so much money. So part of my question before we get into the second part of this bullshit, is it really worth it? Like you've lost way, way more than you paid this dude.
So I think that, yeah, they lost a lot, but the still steady stream could be from his podcast, on the fact that his listeners are loyal and they're still fully listening to his podcast, and they are determined to stay loyal because of all the controversy that is going on outside of his podcast and everything like that, with the drama coming in. So, and also it's $100 million so that they paid him, and whether they cancel their contract or not, they're going to have to pay him the money.
But they've lost 4 billions in the billions in less than a week. So you devaluing my company by
But
billions of dollars.
didn't they do that by like that was from stock decrease, right?
Yeah, but that's where the money comes from, like $1 billion valuation. So if you keep tanking, kind of like Facebook, if you keep tanking, people are going to start selling that stock. And once it's rated at a certain level, granted, they probably have a ways to go, but once you investors are not going to be happy with you losing billions of dollars. That's not Spotify's money that they're losing.
But
That's
most of their money comes okay, so most money from news shows and podcasts and everything is coming from conservative podcasts and podcasts like Joe Rogan's podcast. Like that is where majority of their listeners are coming from. Because when you look at like their top some of their top podcasts, they're conservative viewpoints or conspiracy theorists, if we want to actually speak truth, is where a lot of that is coming from. So if they step away from Joe Rogan and they let him go, that maybe that is a reputation that Spotify also is looking at and saying they cannot afford to have. Because if they get that kind of reputation, they may not be able to come back from it. Like this thing is hot right now. Just like anything else, it's going to cool down. It's going to cool down. So maybe they're looking at as in when it cools down, we'll still keep our conservative listeners that we're making money from, but we'll also get back the listeners that have left us over this controversy. Like we just need to wait until it dies down. Like that could be one of the ways that they're looking at this. They're just waiting for it to die down. It's like the big thing right now, but give it time and people are going to move on. And maybe that's the idea that Spotify is having. People are going to move on. And so once they move on, we're going to get back what we've lost. So we're going to stay steady on this.
Well, when it first started, that's what I thought. Okay, Neil Young, he wasn't bluffing. He pulled his music. Joni Mitchell, other people start pulling their music. They start losing, but it's getting worse. And that's what I thought when I first, like, because this story first broke a couple weeks ago, like right after our last episode. And I thought, oh, by the time we filmed the ReWIne again, it may be a quick pop. Like, okay. But it has gotten worse. And it's funny that you say that because I told you it gets worse. So NDRE is one of the people who also, so you had other artists. NDRE is one of the people who start pulling her music, right? And so people are like, well, why is she pulling her music? Well, it turns out that not only is this fool going around giving COVID information, he was sitting there using the N word with a hard R. And it's over. Spotify had to go back quietly within the last 24 hours. And they've pulled 110 and counting of his shows over all this time that he has. All the time he's been on the air, they've pulled 110 of his shows so far. As of this morning, when I first went back and double checked the story, it was 70. Before we went on air, it was 110. So that's why I say in counting, because of his racist, misogynistic, ableist music. Now, we've been knowing that Joe Rogan was a fucking racist. I'm sorry. If you didn't know, in between all the time that this has happened, that fool actually did a show where he actually tried to define blackness, talking about, oh, I don't know why you call them black anyway, unless they come from like equatorial Africa, like deep in the woods or something, where they're just so close to the deep in the jungle, where they're so close to the sun that they have to develop melanin and they're running around butt naked. They're not black. And this has just been since all this other bullshit has come out. So this is all within the past couple weeks. So it's like, who are you to try to fucking define blackness and what it means? Yes, if you want to if you're trying to say race is a social construct, we can get into that. But if you want to talk about who created the social construct and why, that's a conversation that you're ill-equipped to have. Okay. And so then his first conversation is, his first apology is, oh, I will give more balanced views and have a more balanced view to the COVID bullshit and misinformation. Then after it's come out that he said the N word, today he, and I actually watched it and I watched both apologies because I wanted to see it for my own, with my own eyes, hear it for myself. Basically, today's apology for using the N word was, well, these were clips that have been clipped together over the last 10, 12 years or so. I haven't used the word in years, and they were taken out of context. That was the beginning of the conversation. Then comes the but I realized there is no context in which a white person should use the word. Are you with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Then comes the other but. But I was talking about Red Fox, Richard Pryor, Paul Mooney, Lenny Bruce, all these other comics who had used the word in their stand-up shows and on their albums. And it's such a confusing word or conflicting word. There's no other word like it, where one group, there's only one race allowed to use the word, and it means so many different things within that race. But myself as a white person am never allowed to use the word, which I now realize. Motherfucker, you 50 fucking years old and you telling me you just now realizing that it's not okay to use that word?
Publicly, yeah.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure he still says it privately.
And that's what he said. He did say publicly. I'll have to send you the thing. He did say it's never publicly okay. So you use it privately. And then, as you're saying this in context, there's another video below that where he's daring someone on his show to say the word. I bet you won't say it. Say it, say it, say it. And then the guy just says nigga. And then he busts out laughing. So yeah, there's a lot of context there. So I get why. I don't know if Spotify can continue to take a wait and see attitude with this, because it's not getting better. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And like I said, he needs to hire a fucking PR somebody. Well, no, maybe he doesn't, so he can just go away. And it yeah. Okay, go.
Oh no, I think you summed it up.
Yeah, like I have no words. Maybe, he needs to keep talking about how he's agile enough to suck his own dick, but maybe that's why nonsense comes out of his mouth, because it's so full of his dick. Between having his dick in his mouth, he can't think straight. I don't know, but yeah.
Ooh, shots fired, y'all.
Like, seriously, I've never liked him, never, but I always took the stance that, kind of like that faux fucking news channel, I don't watch you. I know who you are. There's no need for me to say anything about you, but you, to a certain extent, you have the right to voice your opinion. Your opinions are protected. Lies are not. And I think when most people get to the First Amendment, that's the part that they fucking forget, don't realize, or don't pay attention to. Your opinions are protected. Lies are not. There is a difference. So, you doing your own research, I don't know. I have nothing. But yeah, he gets to stay on air while people like Whoopi Goldberg gets suspended for 2 weeks. Did you hear about that?
I did.
Because she said, she didn't say the Holocaust wasn't real. She's not a Holocaust denier. She just said that it wasn't about race. And she caught some backlash for that. And then someone, schooled her or informed her that, and I think most of us were confused about this, because I even had to look it up, because I was like, well, but most of us don't think of Judaism as a race. We think of it as a religion. And it is indeed, in fact, a race.
I don't believe
or
it.
an ethnicity.
There's a difference.
What's the difference?
It's not a race. Anybody can be. A race is something that is defined, that cannot be changed, and more than one type cannot be of it. That is the reason why Hispanic is not a race. It's actually an ethnicity. Because you can be white Hispanic, you can be black Hispanic, you can be of the indigenous sort, and be Hispanic. So when it comes to Judaism, it's a religion. That's like saying, is Muslim a race?
No, it's a religion.
It's a religion. So why
Arab
isn't
would,
Judaism?
well, Arab would be the race, but I think well, I was going to say maybe because most people Israeli would be the race,
Yes.
but not all.
No, and not Israeli. Israeli is a nationality. It would be it can be an ethnicity, but being Israeli is not a race. Race is very it's only but a few. It's only but a few. And then when we go deeper into it, the misunderstanding is that people get confused on nationality, ethnicity, and race. And it gets very convoluted and put all together as one. So then everything becomes a race when that is not actually a fact. There are very, very few races in the world, but there are a lot of ethnicities and there are a lot of nationalities within the world. And that's what people don't understand and don't get. Judaism is a religion. Now, if you consider yourself to be Jewish, you can be any type of race and be a Jew. So you can be a Black Jew, you can be a white Jew, you can be a Arab Jew. So the races that we have, you can still be a Jew because that is a religion that you follow. Judaism, that is a religion that you follow. That is also a culture. But it's the same thing as with Islam. Being Muslim is a culture. It's not a race, and we would never consider it. We could never consider for it to be a race. So yeah, yeah.
Well, see, and me being the nerd that I am, I looked it up, and it did say that Judaism is considered to be a race,
Where?
or an ethnicity. I googled it, but
No. Okay, go ahead.
that's what I said. Because when she said it, I didn't initially disagree, and I can't say that I still fully disagree. I understand why people got mad because the Holocaust is one of those things that is just one of those issues that people are so. I'm I'm not going to say rigid on, but it's one of those things that people get really, really, they're really, really protective or defensive when talking about it, unless you're just a denier. But it says that race is usually associated with biology and linked to physical characteristics such as skin color and hair texture. And ethnicity is linked with cultural expression and identity. So basically, what you just said sums it up. So, in the sense that he was going, yeah. So I don't necessarily. My thing about her whole suspension, regardless of what she said, regardless of whether or not you agree with her whole premise that Judaism is not a race, or it wasn't initially about race because he was going after white people. She didn't say it was. She said it was cruel, it was wrong, or whatever. She just said it wasn't about race. But here's the thing: do you think she should have gotten suspended?
Yes.
Why?
The same way that Sharon Osbourne was first suspended for her statements that she made on the show. Like you said, the Holocaust is a sensitive topic. So it's not like she's getting fired, but she misspoke. She misspoke. And so, being that she misspoke, as well as the fact of how huge of a deal it is, I'll change it. I don't think I necessarily fully 100% agree with her being suspended, but I understand why they suspended her.
Okay. So even after she apologized, and she apologized for misspeaking, and she did say it was a teaching moment, and she did say she understood where um where she offended some people, and that she did misspoke, given that she owned up to it fairly quickly. My thing is this, and I hate playing the whataboutism game, but I can agree with this. Meghan McCain, for all the times that she had her quote unquote teaching moment, she was never suspended.
Yeah, but Sharon Osbourne was.
But
it's kind of like a tit for tat kind of thing. Yes, I understand Meghan McCain was on a different show from Sharon Osbourne. And nobody ever gets the same complete treatment. But I don't necessarily know what you're trying to say. My bad.
I'm just saying, I agree with you. I understand why. I don't necessarily agree because going for the same show, a person who's had a lot of quote unquote teaching moments or who misspoke a lot and never or rarely, if ever, owned up to those egregious errors, was never suspended in her whole
She never
time
talked
there.
about the Holocaust like that, though.
She said a lot of other things that probably warranted.
But the Holocaust is a whole different topic. People don't take kindly to you talking about the Holocaust in any kind of way besides with reverence.
Unless you're Joe Rogan. Okay. So and again, I just, and Sharon Osbourne, her situation, she said what she said, but she was also a nightmare on that set. So it goes, her issues are a little bit different. But and I don't know. I think, you let Joe Rogan stay on the air or continue to.
But he's getting hit back though. Like, it's not that they're like Spotify is letting him, but there's hit back that like there is hits that is coming towards him, as well as Spotify, on the fact that people are not actually in agreement with what he's been saying and the message that he's putting out there, as well as the fact that Spotify is supporting that message. So there is hit back coming to him, the same way that there's hit back coming to Whoopi. I would just say one thing is, based on what I learned in school, because of what my degree actually is in, we can go into a whole discussion on why I disagree with the harshness of, I disagree with people looking at her and telling her that she was wrong in her statement. She may have not said it in a way that people could fully understand what she was trying to put across, but I am one of those people where being Jewish is not a race. It can be ethnicity, it can be, and it's a religion, but it's not a race. I understood what she was saying when she said that it was not about race, because it was white men, it was white people against white people. You were Jewish, but at the same time, you're white and Jewish. So it was more on them going against your religion. It was man going against their religion than man going against the color of their skin and the race that they are. I think that's just convoluting the statement of what a race is compared to what an ethnicity is and a nationality is. And the fact that people don't understand the differences is the reason why you can say that about the Holocaust, where nobody can say anything, but yet you have people that are literally trying to change history to say that slavery was not as bad as it was against a whole race of people. And so they just have, I guess, a better message. I don't know what it is, but I understand what she was trying to say. And I think that because of how huge of a deal the Holocaust is, one reason is because it never happened in the United States. The Holocaust didn't happen in the United States, so we can be all up in arms about something that didn't happen here. But when it comes to slavery, all of a sudden we all up in arms about it, though.
Well, and it also, and besides the obvious, her being a black woman and saying this is going to get her, I feel like, punished more harshly. I agree with you. I think her message got lost in the messaging. And like you say, you in changing history, you want to say that there are people who say slavery wasn't about race, and they seem to be winning these imaginary culture wars, which you can't say are imaginary anymore, with the burning of books, beloved books about, especially the burning and banning of books, especially in school libraries and public libraries. Everything from Harry Potter to Twilight, which has been controversial, To Kill a Mockingbird, which has always been considered a classic and one of those things that you read in high school. The Bluest Eye, just anything that has to do with race and culture, especially LGBTQ. They're assaulting. They're trying to take out schools, especially here in Texas. And then yet you get Rudy Giuliani, who was one of the masterminds behind a fucking coup that we find out every day was closer and closer to becoming a reality. But for Mike Pence actually having a backbone and standing up to his master, taking his dick out of his ass or his mouth, wherever Trump had implanted it that day, and doing the right thing, who knows how this would turn out. But you got that fool on The Masked Singer, being unmasked on The Masked Singer. So that's the shit that I don't understand. Like, you punish her so harshly for something that she admits readily that she was wrong about, or to having someone who actually committed treason against this fucking country on a fucking show, a music show for fun. But again, it's also Fox, so who knows? But
you think I don't think she was punished harshly, though. I'll disagree with you on that. She's still getting paid.
I think in comparison to just the things that we've talked about, where we see the difference, and it goes back to the difference, and you can say, oh, it's because she's a liberal. You can say it's because she's a Black woman. You just see the inequality in treatment, and in the things that certain people are allowed to say, the moments that they're allowed to call teaching moments, the moments that they're allowed to learn from, to her making a mistake. Now, has she not said controversial shit in the past? Of course she has. It's Whoopi Goldberg. She's said a lot of controversial stuff in the past. So I'm not saying that she's never misspoke, or that, but I just think that there is a difference in the way that she's being treated versus the way that other people are being treated for some of the same things. Whether it's warranted, the suspension is warranted or not. Like I said, I understand why she got suspended. I'm not going to sit here and say that she didn't, but them pulling some of Rogan's shows off of Spotify versus them taking him off of Spotify versus them suspending his show from Spotify is something completely different. And I guess that's the comparison that I'm ultimately trying to make. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So what do you, and I mentioned it very briefly before we wrapped up, what do you think about the book burning and book banning going on as a literate person in this United States? It's a throwback to the 1950s, 40s, 60s.
Nothing new.
Nothing new.
Nothing new. Yeah, it's in the news, but I don't see this as being anything new. They've done this over multiple things when it came to music, books, TV shows. Like, this whole thing has happened multiple times. So I just think it's being put out in the news, so we think it's like something really, really huge, but it's been going on behind the scenes for decades. Like I'm thinking in my head, I'm just like, Harry Potter has always been on ban lists across the country. Twilight the same way. Books about LGBTQ have been on ban lists. To Kill a Mock, so. I think that this is getting some media attention, but that doesn't mean that it is something that is just happening or it's been happening very recently. This has been going on in our society behind closed doors for decades. So I'm not hearing anything new when I hear that they're burning books. The only funny thing is, to me, you got to buy the books in order to burn the books. So they get the money either way.
I agree to a certain extent. It kind of, where it's been this public though. I agree, they've been on private lists. Like, you've had parents groups who said, or libraries who've made the decision themselves not to offer those books, or private bookstores who agreed not to offer these books. But the fact where the government is getting involved, where you have legislatures and school boards who are getting involved in actually pushing towards banning these books. These are the books you want to ban. But going back to the Holocaust, everyone has their arms. The conservatives have their panties in a twist, and I guess that's another thing about Whoopi Goldberg and what she said. But you're touting, you're leaving Mein Kampf, you're making it illegal for schools, and so you have these books on your list that you want to ban / burn, but it's okay to leave Mein Kampf on the reading list. You have to teach the Holocaust from both sides, that the Holocaust wasn't a bad thing, along with slavery not being a bad thing. So books that take that perspective, that teach the actual real history of those events, that's the shit you want to burn. And like I said, the state legislatures, the school boards, the local governments getting involved. Although it's happened before, it kind of takes you back to the 1950s and McCarthyism. It's like an era that I thought we had long since passed in this country. You've always had those fringe groups, those church groups who Harry Potter is the devil and Twilight is witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. And we don't want these books. And you've had smaller groups who would say, oh, we shouldn't sell these. But at this level, this massive, this public, this much government support, that's what's surprising me. So I'm filing that in the to be continued, because I'm sure we haven't heard the end of this. All right. Got anything else before we wrap this one up?
No.
All right. Well, this week I created a palate cleanser section just so we can not end on those notes. So I want to send a shout out and a get well to Jamin of BTS, who is recovering from the Rona and an appendectomy. He has been released from the hospital, and he is apparently doing well. So shout out, get well, full recovery to you, Jamin. Who is your favorite BTSer? I know. And he's no longer your favorite?
He wasn't my favorite. RM has
thought...
always been my number one.
Oh, yeah. You did. Okay. RM was your bias. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. And, check out JB's new album. I liked it. Did you like it real quick?
No.
You didn't?
It was all right. I'll take his first one.
His album released under Def Soul, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in more detail on a later episode of something. But anyway, that does it for this episode of the ReWIne. Please be sure to like, listen, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and yes, as of now, we are still on Spotify. You can also keep up to date on the latest entertainment and pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at the Popcorn Wind Down. That's it. That's the plug. Pop, 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 pop. I need some more sound effects. I'm sending Tammy a list. We'll see if she gets to it. Thank you as always. Until next time, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.